Hey, boxing fans. Everybody's had an exciting weekend. I know with boxing, Tyson Fury, I'm not even going to say upsetting Deontay Wilder because going into the fight, people was comparing boxing to puncher. Um, and Fury came out and showed that a boxer can actually defeat a puncher if he does continuous boxing throughout the rounds to set things up. And exactly what he did. I think he learned from his last fight after being knocked down late in the first fight by Deontay Wilder, and his game plan was to actually put some things together. And what I like about what Fury did, even though I was wondering if he would actually beat this fight, but I picked him and would get in a decision. That's what I thought because I thought he would outbox Deontay Wilder based on what he did in his first fight. That he was going to make some changes and bring it to the second fight, which he did, but with a better outcome. For some reason, Deontay Wilder didn't look like the guy that we'd normally seen, and maybe because that's what Tyson Fury took away. When you can take away things from just a straight brawler and a straight puncher, you can move around the ring and make him work a little harder than try to land that right hand. You probably make him look a little lurid in the ring, and that's what he did. He made him look awkward. He made Deontay Wilder look desperate, and he had a good game plan, which I think it started with putting on more weight because I think he's if I was his trainer, I would look at Dante's physique and I looked at the way Deontay Wilder would look at his conditioning throughout rounds and things like that. And I think what they decided to do is put on some weight when they were in close in the clinch, put your weight on them, bear them down a little bit, and basically tire them out. And if that was the game plan, it definitely worked because he tired them out. He made them look desperate with trying to land the right hand without setting anything up. And then he used his jab very well as far as being able to tag Deontay Wilder and start to get Deontay Wilder to open up a little bit more. And with great fighters, what they do is they use their jab to set up a lot of their shots that they want to throw later on in the round or actually later on in the bout. And and Fury did that. He put together an excellent game plan. And going into this fight, I think they said that he didn't allow any cameras in his training camp, to actually see any sparring and things like that, which I think was smart, with a big mega fight like this going on. You don't want to give up any of your tactics or any of your secrets or any of your game plan going into a fight like that so your opponent can make some adjustments. So with doing that, that was a smart thing to do. And I think he was very confident coming into this fight, especially with making a statement like that he was going to knock him out in the second round. It didn't happen in the second round, but he did get the stoppage. But hats off to Tyson Fury because he did an excellent job, man, of just dominating Deontay Wilder. Really, he just dominated him, and even with the point being taken away from holding. And if you took notice like I did, he knew what arm to grab when the referee was on his other side. Whatever side the referee was on, he was using that arm to cling to Deontay Wilder and lock in, like almost like Bernard Hopkins would do. When the referee was on the other side of Bernard Hopkins, whatever side the referee was on, Bernard Hopkins would punch him in the hip on the other side. So it was tactics like that. But he didn't even do any punching on the hip. But he just used his techniques at the perfect time, I would say. And sometimes when you do that, you frustrate fighters, and he was fresh. Deontay Wilder, I don't think he was frustrated. I think he was more bewildered and lost a little bit, didn't know what to do. It's like he didn't have a game plan. His game plan was just to land a big shot. If that was a game plan, it worked with a lot of the fighters that he came in, facing coming into this contest with Fury. But with those other fighters, I think it was more of those guys, they knew Deontay Wilder had power, so they was a little leery of actually trying to box him. But Tyson Fury wasn't. Tyson Fury, people don't realize that Tyson Fury, you know, got a unanimous decision over Wilder McCliffsco back in 2015. And after that fight, he didn't fight again until 2018. So, you know, he preserved himself a little bit. You know, he was overweight. Yeah, he was overweight, you know, leading up to the first fight with that was made with Deontay Wilder, but he trained and he got down the size and everything. And to be out of the ring, you know, for a while, he made some good adjustments, man. I mean, some over the top adjustments that you would do in a high caliber fight like this, you know. And sometimes you wonder, you know, with Deontay Wilder, what would he take back to his training camp to get out of a fight like this, to stay the elite fighter that he once was. You know, even with just holding that, with just on to that one shot that he had. But actually, Deontay Wilder, he's known for 2 shots, basically. The powerful right hand, but the left hook that follows it sometimes too. And people forget about that, you know, because that's actually the shot that knocked Tyson Fury down in the first fight. It was a good right hand, and he followed with the left. So people, you know, are forgetting about that. But Deontay Wilder, he needs to learn how to set his punches up right. Because can you imagine if Deontay Wilder was a tactical boxer and a strategic boxer, and with his power and his size, he would just go undefeated as long as he wanted to go undefeated in his entire career if he had those boxing skills. But you know, in boxing, sometimes it just takes one punch, you know. And we can go back to when Deontay Wilder fought Luis Ortiz in the second bout. You know, pretty much the same outcome going into throughout the rounds. Luis Ortiz was actually outboxing Deontay Wilder. And when you outbox a person, and if you can last the 12 rounds, and you got good foot movement, you work the ring well and things like that, your boxing can win you a fight. Just straight boxing. You don't even have to knock your opponent out. You can just outpoint them, you know, throughout the whole round. I mean, throughout the whole bout. But he slipped up, you know. He threw a jab out there and tried to come with another left hand, but he ended up dropping his left and got caught with the right, you know, and he went down, and that was it. You know, like you said, with a powerful heavyweight like Deontay Wilder, one punch, and that's how he ends a lot of his fights. But the thing was totally different coming into the second fight with, you know, Tyson Fury. A lot of people had Wilder winning in the 7th round. Some people picked 3rd round and things like that. Based on, I think they overlooked boxing and just stuck with what they chose just the pure power off of this, and I think that's why they made their pick, and that works, but it only works with certain fighters. See, I chose my unanimous decision with Fury because I thought that Fury was going to just avoid the right hand, but box his way throughout the whole round. I didn't think he was going to be able to knock Deontay Wilder out like he did or stop him like he did, but I thought he was just going to outbox him, period. So I think a lot of people, when they picked Wilder, I think they were just thinking about all the knockouts that he had, and all he had to do was land that one shot. That's all he had to do. He just needed to land that right hand. He just needed to land that right hand. And it didn't work for him. And when you go into boxing, you go into picking particular boxers, you got to look at both styles, you know, because when you pick just one style, like of the brawler, just overpowering the fighter, you got to look at his opponent. You know, if he's facing an opponent that's really kind of shaky on boxing, you know, he wears down like throughout rounds and things like that, he slows down a little bit, then a puncher would definitely catch up with him and be able to finish him. But if you have a guy with endurance and stamina that can box for 12 rounds straight, you know, it's a no-brainer when it comes to picking fights, you know, unless he does something idiotic and like you said, it's a technical flaw throughout a particular round. He lets his guard down, he gets caught. And Tyson Fury didn't let that happen to him. You know, and part of I think the bad part about this is I think they said probable busted eardrum. which most likely that's what it was with the blood coming out of his left ear like it was. And hopefully, of course he's going to, because it's a TKO, he got to stop. He's going to get a suspension from the commission. That's automatic. That's nothing huge in boxing. That just automatically happens. That's just the way that the rules are, basically. And that's to protect the fighters also. So with that, it's a third bout rematch clause in there, and will Deontay Wilder exercise it? Every fighter should exercise the rematch clause. I don't care what particular. Every fighter should do it. I think it works out in their benefit. So gives you an opportunity to make some more money also. So that's a no-brainer on the business side. You definitely want to exercise that. And but sometimes when you don't exercise your rematch clause, Tyson Fury fights somebody else, and you throwing the dice, it's 50-50. Tyson Fury loses the title to somebody, then the rematch clause is out the window, and you have to go to another route, try to chase your belts or try to chase your title back. And the money is not going to be the same because your stock went down a little bit. And that's how boxing is, when fighters don't exercise their rematch clause. And matter of fact, just like recently with Julian Williams and Jared Hurd, I'm pretty sure that, I'm not sure if after the fight did Julian Williams get hurt, but I'm not sure what the specifics are in it. But I know that rematch didn't happen. And all of a sudden, you got Julian Williams losing to a fighter that really wasn't predicted to be at that level. And he had the opportunity. He took advantage of it. He stopped Julian Williams, took both titles away from him. So now, in the junior middleweight division, they're going to work some things out now. Now, like I said, it's all about business now, and how Al Heyman is going to maneuver those fighters around to make good boxing for the boxing fans. And basically that's what it comes down to, the business side. When you talk about the guys that control it, we're just waiting to see how they play out, far as boxing fans do. And a lot of times the fans don't get what they always want. They get a little sample of what they want that would hold them over a little bit, and that's the way the sport is. Because you try to maximize the most capital off of the fighters that you possibly can as the investor. So a lot of times when it comes to situations like that, when titles start to flip-flop like they have been in the junior middleweight division, it's going to take a little time to get things locked in again with those fighters. We're going to see those same fighters fight lesser competition. We're going to see those fighters take a little while longer to compete against each other again. Almost like we had that triple series with Laura, Hurd, and Charlo, when they all fought on the same card, and end up with Laura fighting Hurd, and Hurd winning the titles, and that was a great thing, for Hurd. Once you get to that level, it's about maximizing the capital and maximize the most money you can get when you get to that level, because the belt's just a trophy, you know what I'm saying? So when you're at that level, it's about you are the guy that can make the most money. And a lot of times fighters need to realize that. And when they finally realize that, they can start using working their careers and making a blueprint for their career to get to that level like that, to where they can maximize the sport. And because the sport is definitely making money off of them. And sometimes fighters, they need to understand that they have to have you have to have the right connections. And that's how it is on a lot of these sports. That's when you see the athletes. And that's when you see, especially in basketball, you have the AAU leagues and things like that, with basketball players, they jump from high school, they go to a year college, and then they go right to an NBA, team. And that's been mapped out for them since they've been in AAU. That was the plan for them. They was only going to spend 1 year in college, and they was going to move on. And now colleges know that, so those guys are making a lot of money doing that. But fighters, they need to do the same thing, especially when they're at a high level at the amateur level. If they make the right connection at the amateur level, they need to maximize. They need to start making their connections then. They need to start putting their plan together from the amateurs going into the pros, where you don't start off with your first fight making $500. Sometimes because boxers, they scout fighters too. Promoters, they have their eye on fighters, and that's why a lot of fighters get signed coming straight out of amateurs, a lot of them, and that's why you see a lot of fighters on television at a young age, because they're mapped out to be in a certain position by the time they have a certain amount of fights. And a lot of times, the promoters, that's what this what it is. As if put myself in put myself in this position, if I was a promoter and if I knew I was the investor into boxing, of course I'm gonna choose some of the best fighters that I have noticed that has the best opportunity to make money, and also I can be able to make them happy with they can make money also. So it's sometimes it's not taking advantage of the fighters. It's actually making the right investments in the fighter that they can capitalize at the money level that they need to be, and also as the businessman, he can capitalize at the highest level he can be, because the fighter will never make as much money as the promoter, never. If based on what fighter they have, like people see, Floyd Mayweather making 500 million. Well, guess how much the promoter makes? If Floyd makes 500 million, guess how much the promoter made, off of that? Because promoter has to bring in those what you call the advertisement deals and things like that. So, it's same with football. If a football owner of a football team can pay a player, multiple players, like hundreds of $1 millions over 4 or 5 years, so imagine how much money they are bringing into their organization. So the athlete is never going to make as much money as the one in charge. So, and a lot of times, that's why you see fighters making certain business moves, where they can capitalize, because a fighter's career doesn't last. Nowadays, to be at a high level competition, it really doesn't last more than 10 years consistently at a high level. And the only way it lasts is longer than that is just your activity isn't as long. Fighters at that level only fight maybe once, pretty much once, maybe twice a year. And be considered a high level fighter. You talking like maybe we talking about the fighters that bring in millions of dollars consistently every time they hit the ring. So to get to that level, young guys, I want to let you know and tell you to start while your career is young and early. Get with the right people that have the connections to get you where you need to be, because this sport is not going to really come looking for you all the time, because sometimes you got to let your talent shine, and when your talent shines, you get recognized, and people put out phone calls actually in your favor to let people know who you are, and they take a risk on you, and they invest in you. So take advantage of that. And because a lot of times it's just everybody can't be a champion. It's a lot of people out here with a lot of dreams of being a world champion, and it just doesn't happen with everybody. But it is money to be made in boxing, depending on which route you want to make. Which route you want to take, I'm sorry. Because a lot of times fighters can make a lot of money being sparring partners. If they don't want to hit the ring as often, for actually fights, they travel around, be sparring partners for a lot of these champions, and sometimes fighters need to take advantage of that. Stop sparring for free. If you know a fighter is a world champion, you have to get paid for sparring with him. Don't look at it as he's helping you out in your career. No, that's part of it, but get paid too. Because he's gonna, if he's a world champion, he's gonna be making, based on what level he is, far as what weight class, he can be making hundreds of thousands of dollars for a fight, or millions of dollars for a fight, and you're gonna go spar for him for free? No, it shouldn't be like that. So I recommend to all fighters, if you're sparring, and if it's a fighter that's notable, and he's getting paid, and he knows he's getting paid, so your option is to ask him. That's your obligation. Your obligation is to tell him that, how much am I going to get paid for sparring you? Because a lot of people like free. a lot of people like free, but sometimes free can hurt you too, because a lot of fighters, they bring in sparring for free that doesn't help them on anything. They just bring guys in to beat up on them, and that's not going to work. You want to bring a sparring partner that can mimic your opponent's ability that he's going to bring to the ring. So you want a fighter that can mimic that throughout your training camp, that is able to push you to limits that you think you couldn't go. And also you can direct him and tell him what things you need to work on. So especially with, like, if you want to work on your foot movement, you tell him, I want you to work, push me. I want you to try to push me to my right. I want you to try to push me to my left, so we can work on that, so I can learn how to fight against that. Things like that. So it's techniques and schemes that you can put together that can make you a better fighter when it comes to bringing in sparring. Some fighters have 3 and 4 different sparring partners, because each one of those sparring partners brings a different thing that their opponent has, because all sparring partners don't have everything. So sometimes, that's what they do. And that's definitely an excellent idea, because in a lot of things that fighters need to know is, you have to know that trainer and understand what that trainer is trying to teach you. And if that trainer is not teaching you what you want to know, then the business part is find somebody that's teaching you what you need to know. And a lot of times it happens, it works out, because most of the time people get in their feelings when they get ousted and when things don't go their way as far as training. And certain fighters, sometimes trainers let fighters go because they don't want to listen. So it works both ways. It works both ways. And I think it benefits both people, because I wouldn't want to be a trainer that deals with a fighter that doesn't want to listen, that because sometimes you can actually hear it in the corner when the fighter's controlling what the trainer is doing, and the trainer's not controlling what the fighter's doing, because the fighter's actually telling him what he's going to do in the ring, instead of the trainer, the fighter allowing the trainer to tell him what he sees, so he can put it into works inside when the bell rings. So it can go both ways, but a good fighter definitely listens to his trainer, and they have that connection, that that they have that, I want to say, trust in a trainer, and also that trainer has to have that trust in the fighter to do what he's supposed to do when the trainer's not around. So it's a lot of little small things that mean a lot in the sport of boxing, because fighters do not understand. I can't say fighters. Some fighters do not understand the smallest thing they do can actually ruin their career. I mean, inside and outside of the ring. So they need to take heed to that and understand the full aspects of the boxing if they want to become a boxer, or if they're already a fighter. They need to understand everything. Either staying away from the drug aspect, the drinking aspect. Some even the people they hang out with, that part of it hurts. The parties they go to, that hurts, because they can go to a party, have a great time, but when they leave the party, it could be something going on somewhere else, and that, like a shootout, and we hear it all the time on the news, a shootout or something, and they can be ones getting impacted by that shootout, with either being shot, or somebody that one of their friends getting shot. So it's a lot of things that can happen in the sport. So they have to really maintain a level of awareness of what they're doing inside and outside of the ring. And a lot of times fighters are blinded by the spotlight and sometimes by the fame and the money, and they don't take heed to understanding what things can actually happen to them. And how fast that thing can go away, because a lot of fighters, they have a story. They came from poverty, or they came from a background of amateur background that wasn't really that great, but they became, great fighters, after that, or it became, like, sometimes you can go to a high level without being a great fighter, because it happens. But some fighters, they don't understand how fast things can go, and they don't stay humble. And when that thing comes to hit you, man, you get a piece of that humble pie, and you can make I want to say if you all of a sudden you're making $500,000 to $2 million a fight, and you lose a fight, next thing you know, you be back down to making maybe 100,000 or 150,000, if that. And then from that part, if you don't bring the draw when you make 150,000, you're gonna drop down even further because your shelf life is gonna become longer, and your activity is gonna fall off. So in the business, man, I'm telling you, you have to bring. When you're in that ring, when you're inside that ring, when that bell rings, you have to shine. I mean, you got to let the fans know that you're there. You're going to have to pretty much dominate, because a lot of fans, they love to see knockouts. They love to see knockouts and dominating performances, because a lot of people love the science. They love the sweet science of boxing. When you can go in there and you can put everything to work, you're using your jab, your footwork, your head movement, everything, and I mean, it's nothing better than the sweet science of boxing when you see it all happening right in front of you and dominating the performance without even getting a knockout. I mean, just a dominating performance, and you give people a lot to talk about, and that's the element that you want to be. You want to be the one that's talked about. So I know I haven't done a video in a while, so this is one of I said I was gonna do more, but one of few I want to say, because to me, I want to say boxing is taking a toll, because out of this, you give so much and you receive so little. But that's the agape part of the love I have for it. It's a wonderful thing, but it's a tiring thing. Sometimes I have to sit back and I have to rest. Because you can't keep building without rest, so, I need rest, I'm not stepping away from boxing, but I'm definitely slowing down. And, I'm more about family stuff now, a lot of family issues, marital issues. I'm about all that, and maintaining a level of spiritual awareness within my home, with my church, especially with, mainly with my connection with God, try to keep that at the highest level as possible. A lot of people see me posting a lot of spiritual stuff on it, because I think that platform that I'm on now with the boxing, I think everyone is just not all about boxing. There's a lot of spiritual people in boxing too. So when you see spiritual things, if I can reach out to one person, it might just be one or two people, as long as I reach them, I say I did my job, posting it, because I'm not ashamed of posting, anything about God or anything like that, or Jesus, because I know that he did a lot of things for me, and mainly, he died for my sins, he was buried, and I believe that he rose again, and that's the main thing that runs my life and keeps me going, and that's the only reason I think I'm going right now, because he gives me the strength to keep pressing on and moving. So boxing fans, hopefully, some of those inspirational messages that I put out there, everyone had a chance to, I hope it helps someone, along with some of the boxing material I put out there. So, I appreciate all the support from you guys, and look forward to coming to some fights, coming up. I know it's one coming up, Jetta Promotions card, going to be at the Live Casino on the 28th. That's Friday coming up. Damon Nicholson is going to highlight that card, the main event. But I've been posting on, you can check it on Pro Am Fight Talk, or proamfighttalk.blogspot.com, or definitely on boxinglongandbeltway.blogspot.com. That's Gary Digital Williams' site. That's my partner there. And, we conversated, myself and Gary, we conversated how boxing is taking a toll on us. We did it for a while. You guys probably seen me for the past, maybe, I want to say, since actually expressing my boxing results and everything like that, since 2009. But I've been following boxing for a long time, before I even started, with the photography and all of a sudden the blogging and everything, because I wanted to look this area over before I jumped out there. And that's what I did, and of course Gary has been doing it for, I want to say, about 35 years now. and or more maybe. So he's been at it for a while, and it takes a toll on you. We go to these fights. We have to, most cards start at like 7 o'clock, but Gary and I, most of the time we first ones in there to cover, and we the last ones basically to leave. They're breaking the rings down when we leave sometimes. Tearing down the rings. You can hear it in the background of some of our coverage, our post fight wrap ups that we do. You hear the clinking and clanging of the ring getting torn down. And then the long ride home from some of these places, when Gary and I ride together. It takes a toll, man. It takes a long time, it takes a lot of time away from your family. They understand what you do and they appreciate what you do, and that's a good thing. They love you for what you're doing, but for personal, I want to say, how can I say? It's like, but just for a personal sense of satisfaction, we're not getting what we need when it comes to the time away from our family compared to covering boxing. We starting to understand what outweighs more when we say family. This is this family, and it outweighs boxing. We got a heavier burden on our family than we do with boxing. And with boxing, we get the attitudes when, of course, because the way we cover fights, we talk about fights, talk about the good and the bad. Everybody wants to hear the good. Nobody wants to hear the bad. And then everybody's praising you when you talk about the good. Then they turn the nose up at you when you talk about the bad. But that's part of boxing. Fighters go in there and look tremendous sometimes. Then they go in there and look not so great sometimes. So when you talk about it, they don't like it. And we talk about all aspects of boxing. What goes on, from the time the bell rings up until the time, the second bell rings for the 1 minute break. Things could be happening in corners that we talk about. Things can be happening before the fight starts that we can talk about. So, we cover all aspects of it, and the respect level that we have on that part, I think, is falling off a little bit because people are too emotionally tied into not hearing the bad part of it. And the thing is, that's part of the sport. Boxing didn't choose you. You chose boxing. And when you choose boxing, you choose everything that comes with it. And that's what fighters need to understand. Everybody involved, not just fighters, but everybody involved in fighting. Managers, trainers, boxers, parents, fans, promoters, matchmakers, commission, referees, judges, everybody. So, but I have to say this though, even with bad, the good outweighs the bad. But all around for myself and Gary, it's just been a multitude of time, long days, a multitude of long days. And sometimes even with boxing doesn't happen every day in this area, but if you think about covering over a month span, a yearly span, we do maybe on an average 8 bouts a year, maybe, based on the promoter, based on the activity. Well, locally, it's grown for the past couple of years because it was just at one time from between 2012 when things kicked back in after the Lamont Peterson and Lemire Khan fight. About when that was 2011. So when 2012 kicked in, it was just local promoters doing things, and then around 2015, we had some outside promoters coming in. Then it picked up a little bit more along with the local promoters. And then we had the mega fights coming in the area, and that really picked up a lot of boxing business in the area and coverage for us, So that's how it's been, man. It's been a wonderful thing, but I tell you, if boxing can pay the bills and all that Gary and I have been doing in it, we should have been millionaires by now, as much as we've done in this sport. But when you do it for the passion, you got to take the pain that comes with it, and that's how we've been. So, like I said, things might slow down, but they aren't going to stop. So I appreciate you guys listening to this long video, But like I said, it's not going to be too many like this. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.